Good evening, everybody. Jesse's still not back, so we're going to do the best we can anyway. And so before we get started, Jeremy's going to go ahead and open us up with a word of prayer, and then we'll jump into our text.
You all bow with me. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for all you do for us, bringing us together safely tonight. Please open our ears to hear your word, to accept it into our heart, to hopefully practice it in our lives on a daily basis. Praise you, Father, for all you do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right. Look at that. Parable of Talents, AI made a pretty good picture there, didn't it? I mean, it's not bad. It looks like a real historic painting or something. But that's ChatGPT. I asked it to make me historically accurate. I don't know how historically accurate it is with that crown, but a historically accurate picture of the king giving the talents to his servants. And that's what it gave me. So, not too bad. Yeah. So, go ahead and open up your Bibles there to Matthew. We're going to be looking here at the parable of the talents. At least that's what we're going to start off looking at here. And, it's interesting when you just look at just the parable of the talents, you get a lot out of it. But when you look at it in the overall context of what Jesus has been talking about and what he is talking about, you kind of get a little bit bigger picture of what's going on. And so it really kind of starts back in chapter 22, if you're looking at the whole context here where, Jesus has been having this back and forth conversation with the Pharisees and the scribes, and they've been kind of testing him about paying taxes, about the resurrection, and what's the greatest commandment, right? And so this kind of picture that we get of, the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes trying to test Jesus. And then in chapter 23, right, he really lays into the Pharisees. And so let's see, chapter 23, Jesus has been having this conversation with them, and then chapter 23, verse 1, it says, "Then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, 'The scribes and the Pharisees sit on Moses' seat, so practice and observe whatever they tell you, but do not do what they do.'" And then he's going to go on, and you get all the woes, right? "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites," and he tells them why, right? 7 times, I think it is, he goes through this, and just really rebuking them for, you could say, not being Israel's leaders the way they ought to be, right? They failed as stewards of God's people, of leading God's people the way that they ought to. But he's going to talk about them. You go out and you make a proselyte, and he becomes more of a son of hell than yourself. So this is the conversation that Jesus is having, and what he's teaching the people and his disciples. And then, at the end there of chapter 23, he laments over Jerusalem. It says, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones the ones who are sent to it, how often I would have gathered your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, but you would not. See, your house is left desolate, for I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, 'Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.'" And so Jesus is going to go on in chapter 24 to talk about, the destruction of Jerusalem, the destruction of the temple. And so he talks about that, and he's talking about the temple, and then they go out of there, and it says, verse 3 of chapter 24, "And as he sat on the Mount of Olives, his disciples came to him privately, saying, 'Tell us, right, when these things will be, and what will be the sign of your coming and of the close of the age?'" And so they want to know when's the temple going to be torn down, every stone torn down. When's that going to happen, Jesus? But they're really asking 2 questions here. They're asking, when's that going to happen? And then the close of the age. I don't know if they really know that they're asking 2 questions, but Jesus answers 2 basic questions there, right? He tells them when the temple is going to be destroyed, not like the date, but he says there's going to be signs of this thing coming, right? There's going to be wars. There's going to be rumors of wars. You're going to see the abomination of desolation as spoken by the prophet Daniel standing in the holy place. Get out of Dodge, right? Don't be there during that time. But then he goes on to answer the second question about the end of the age or the close of the age, starting in verse 36. And he says, concerning that day and hour, no one knows, not even the angels in heaven. So the idea of Jesus returning, judgment day coming like a thief in the night is the idea here. Nobody knows when that's going to happen. There will be signs when the temple's going to be destroyed, right? And if you look back at history and you read, say, Josephus, he talks about how this took place in AD 70, right? On how the city was sieged. And I mean, like millions of people died. At least hundreds of thousands died in that city. But the coming of the Son of Man and the second coming, the return of Jesus, is going to happen at a time we don't know when that's going to happen. So then, that was chapter 24, sorry about that. Judgment is coming, right, on Jerusalem, but also coming on the whole world, but nobody knows when that's going to happen. And then chapter 25, Jesus begins to explain how his disciples are to live while they're waiting for his return. In the meantime, this is what I want you to do. That's what Jesus is saying here in chapter 25. And so we see, right, they're to live prepared. You have the parable of the 10 virgins. Live prepared, live ready for his return. And then we have the parable of the talents. Be productive as you're waiting, right? Don't be lazy. Don't be slothful. Be productive with what God gives you. And then we also see here to be compassionate. And you see this with the sheep and the goats, the separating of the sheep and the goats, and how whether we take care of those that are in need or not. And so be prepared, be productive, and be compassionate, right, while we wait for Jesus' return. And so we want to focus in, though, on the parable of the talents here. And let's go back to chapter 25, verse 14. And we'll just read through it, and then we'll talk about kind of some of the stuff that we see in here. So he gets done with the parable of the 10 virgins, and in verse 13 he says, watch therefore, for you know neither the day or the hour when Jesus is going to return. That's the point of what he's saying here. Then he goes on, so it's because you don't know of either the day or the hour, it says, for it will be like a man going on, for it to be like a man going on a journey, who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. So he gave him a talent, right? A lot of times we think of a talent as being like, oh, I can play the guitar, right? I have a talent, or I can ride a skateboard, I have a talent. But here, this is a monetary unit. If you look down in your footnotes, you may see there that it says a talent is a monetary unit worth about 20 years' wages for a laborer. Yours says 15. Interesting. Okay. Little contradiction there in the footnotes. It's a lot of money, right? Talking a lot of money. If it was today, I don't know. If you're making, say, $100 a day, that's somewhere around, $500,000 for 20 years. Somewhere around there, if my math is right. And so it's a lot of money, right? That he's given. The first guy got 5 of those. So that's like $2.5 million to manage, right? Here, you get $2.5 million. You manage that while I'm gone. You get $1 million, and you're going to get about $500,000 to manage while I'm gone. Each given as they were able to manage that. And so he goes on here and he says, let's see. Verse 15? Okay, thank you. To the one he gave 5 talents, to another he gave 2, and to the other 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received 5 talents went at once and traded with them and made 5 talents more. So also he who had 2 talents made 2 talents more. But the one who had the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid the master's money. I mean, that seems wise. You don't lose it that way. But, goes on, now, after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And the one who had received 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. You delivered to me 5 talents. Here I made 5 talents more. The master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also, who had the 2 talents, came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents, and I have made 2 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also, who had received the 1 talent, came forward, saying, Master, I knew that you are a hard man, reaping where you do not sow and gathering where you scatter no seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. But the master said to him, You wicked and slothful servant, you knew that I reap where I do not sow and gather where I do not scatter seed? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers. And at my coming, I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to the one who has 10 talents. For everyone who has will more be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. And in that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. What are some of the lessons you think that we see in this parable? What do you think? Any ideas? Like, what do you see in this parable? This is the talking part.
People who know how to run a business, or people who know how to handle large sums of money.
Okay, so we see some people here that know how to handle large sums of money. True.
Managing risk.
Okay, managing risk. Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
The talents are distributed unevenly.
Okay, the talents are distributed unevenly according to their ability, right? Yeah, not everybody received the same thing or the same amount. They all received the same thing, but they didn't receive the same amount in this situation here. Yeah.
Rewards.
Oh, there was rewards. Oh, what's that? The reward was the same? Oh,
For the 2 who used it.
yeah, right? Yeah, who used it according to their ability. They used it and they both received their reward. And then the one who didn't, actually, I mean, he didn't lose it, right? I mean, you'd think that would be good, right? To me, that seems like a good thing. You didn't lose it at least. So, all right, come on in. But that's not what the master says, is it? He got the boot, didn't he? Yeah, so what's this parable teach? So one thing here, I think that this is about the kingdom, right? And Jesus is talking about how his disciples are to live now while they're waiting for his return, right? Be ready, the parable of the virgins, the 10 virgins. Be, what do we say? Productive. And then be charitable, right? So Jesus entrusts his disciples with resources to use while he is away. And so we see that here with this king. He comes, he entrusts his resources. Money's just a resource, right? It's a resource. Whatever it happens to be, in this parable, it was money to use while he was away. Now, were those resources from the parable, do you get any idea here that they were to be used just for their own selfish desires? For the master. I mean, could they have, you would assume, right, that they're working for the master. Some of that money, of course, was going to be used for them to live on, for them to take care of their wife or their kids or whatever, right? But it's going to be used to live on as well. But ultimately, it was used for the master, right? To cause the master to increase in some way. And so it seems like Jesus expects a return on his investment, right? You have the king here. He invests $2.5 million into this one servant, and he expects a return on that. In this example, it's doubled, right? I think Jesus expects a return on the investment that he has made into us as well. It's to be used for his benefit, right? Not just our own benefit. I think that's one of the things that we see here. The wicked servant's problem was fear and inactivity, right? He was afraid, so he went and he dug a hole, he buried it, and just let it sit there. And he didn't actually use what the master had given him for the master's benefit. I think some of the very positive things that we see in here, it is that reward, right? When the servant uses what the master has given him for the master's benefit, there is a reward for that servant. But at the same time, the sad truth is that many Christians today and then and all throughout history, right, bury the resources that Jesus has given them out of fear or selfishness. Yeah.
Well, you notice too, I guess it depends on the translation. Mine says slaves, but you can
Sure.
translate servants as well. But I don't know anyone that will give me $2.5 million to just go do whatever to invest.
Yeah.
Right? I have no experience. That's not what I do.
Right, right.
So I think there's a weight of importance behind
Yeah.
that, saying this is not just a small task. This is
Sure.
something very important.
Right.
Here's what will be 5 times your life savings.
Yeah.
Go do something with it.
Right. Yeah, I like how it said, according to their ability, right? These people had an ability to manage $2.5 million. I don't have that ability. Like you said, you don't have that ability. I could dig a hole and bury it pretty good, though, you know? But, so what he gives us is according to our ability, right? I think that's that's a good point to bring out, yeah. Were you going to say something?
Well, I mean, just if I was the third guy,
Mm-hmm.
the way it's worded, it almost sounds like, so it says, for just like a man about to go on a journey, who called his own slaves and entrusted his possessions to them,
Mm-hmm.
he gave them the talents, blah, 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 and he went on his journey. There's no instruction on what to do with that money.
Yeah, okay,
There's
okay.
no instruction,
Yeah.
you know? He just gave them the talents and I'm gone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the third
Yeah.
guy's like, I don't want to lose this.
Right.
And bury it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I could kind of interpret it.
Yeah, yeah, okay. I can see that, right? The instructions aren't given in the parable. I think they're implied in the parable, right? They had an ability to do something with that money.
His ability was to dig a hole.
Yeah, there you go. He was a good ditch digger. That one was. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Basically shows that he didn't have any trust in
Okay. How so?
well, these other guys obviously felt like the king would reward them if they used their talents.
Okay.
He didn't
Okay.
trust the king to do that.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. So he didn't trust that the king would actually give him a reward, possibly? Yeah, that could be. Yeah.
I think there's also accountability,
Ah,
judgment at the very end of that.
yeah.
There's definitely a clear sign that you'll be judged on how accountable you are with God's talents.
Yeah, good. Okay, so there's definite accountability, right? He says that he called them and they were to give an account for what they did with what he had left them with. And it's interesting, you know, so here we've got this king going on a long journey and leaving his servants or his slaves behind to manage his affairs. What did Jesus do? Did he go on a long journey? Like, right? Did he leave his servants to manage his affairs? Right? Jesus being the head, us being the body. Right? I know we've talked about this a lot, but he has left his servants to manage his affairs here on earth, him being the head, us following his instructions. But the work gets done by his servants. Right? Yeah. I saw a hand. Did I see a hand? No? All right. Any thoughts?
I like 24 with his misconception of the master.
Ah, okay. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of wanted to make the master responsible for what he didn't do.
Okay. Yeah, blame shifting. All right, cool. Yeah, so we see a lot of this here, right, and how it applies to even to us today. Of course, Jesus was speaking to a specific audience at a specific time, and I mean his disciples, right? He took his disciples aside and he was teaching them here on the Mount of Olives. And he is really literally going to go on a long journey, right? I mean, they're literally going to watch him go up into the sky and they're going to be like, now what? Then the Holy Spirit's going to come upon them in Acts chapter 2, and the story is going to continue. But it even continues today to the point where the snowball has gotten so big because of people sharing the gospel that we can sit here today as Christ's disciples, heirs of the heavenly kingdom, and read this and say, man, how does this apply to me personally today, right? And so it's interesting, we talk about the talents being whatever it is that God has given us, whatever resources God has given us to use for his ability. And it's interesting, just looking back through history, and historians who do all that, I didn't actually look back through all of history, but some people do. And they look at the state of mankind throughout history, and we live in an unprecedented time with opportunities that have never existed throughout history, right? Let me give you some examples here. Material resources, right? I mean, King Solomon was rich. He had a lot of stuff, right? Gold, silver, clothing, all of that. Chariots, horses, but he didn't have a Toyota Tundra that could take him across the country. He could travel 3,000 miles nonstop almost, get gas and just keep on going. He didn't have firearms. But he didn't have so much. We have so many innovations that have taken place throughout history that we have access to that nobody in history has had access to. Airplanes. Could you imagine? No matter how rich King Solomon was, he could not fly. But it's like commonplace. You want to go to China? Just buy a ticket. They're like, $1,000 maybe round trip. Fly to China. Go have a bowl of soup and come back. No big deal, right? It's a weekend trip. If you want. You could get in a boat and sail over the Northern Passage, and enjoy yourself. And it's no problem. It's amazing. Food, right? So many times throughout history, there's been all of these famines and food insecurity where you work the day and you eat at night from the money that you made from the day you worked, right? You work all day long so you can go buy some bread or some food, eat it, so you can get up and go to work the next day. But we have so much food, an abundance of food, cabinets full of it, grocery stores full of it. You just go and buy it. And we talk about how expensive food is. Food is the cheapest it's ever been when you compare how many hours you have to work to purchase it, right? How many hours you have to work to buy a loaf of bread. Even if it's $3, how many minutes of work is that? It's not very many minutes for a whole loaf of bread. We didn't have to work all day for that loaf of bread. We had to work a few minutes to buy that loaf of bread, right? And so this food abundance, freedom, right? The freedom, religious freedom for one, freedom of speech for another, and relative safety or security that we enjoy. You could go out here on the street and you could yell whatever you want to yell on that corner, and probably nothing is going to happen to you. Really, right? The police are going to come, somebody's going to complain, and they're going to say maybe you shouldn't yell that. You're like, I got the freedom of speech. And they're going, oh, you're right, you do. And then they're going to stand there and make sure that you're safe. Right? Crazy that we have that ability. Communication ability. There was a time when the furthest you could communicate was how loud you could yell. Right? That was it. But now we can communicate around the world in seconds, face to face even. You could get on a FaceTime call or a Google whatever you got and look at somebody in Australia and talk to them in real time. Amazing. Could you imagine if Paul had that ability? What do you think? Would he use it? I don't know. I wonder. And so we live in this time when Jesus, our master, has blessed us with many, 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 many talents, right? And I used to think about this as far as like foreign missions goes, where you think about foreign missions, you think, okay, God has blessed me, right, to live in the United States, a country that is basically the world's only superpower, right? And have a passport that allows me to go to basically any country. There's a few that you can't go to, but you can basically go anywhere with an American passport, right? And then you have prestige in most places, right? And access that other people don't have. You come from a country that's relatively rich and can afford to send missionaries places. And with all of that, what do I do with that God has given us, right? That God has given me, say. With all of that, what do I do with it? Do I dig a hole and just bury it? Or do I use it for Him in some way? People in, say, Cuba, they don't have that same ability. They're from a poor country that can't afford to send missionaries everywhere. Their passport probably can't get them to a lot of places. And they're from Cuba. You know what I mean? I mean, like, they just don't have the same ability that we would have from the United States or many other Western countries. And so we can look at it from that perspective. We can look at it from the perspective of all of the physical blessings that God has given us, like our home. Do we use our home for His glory, or do we use it just for ourselves? But tonight I want us to look at one specific area, one specific talent or tool or resource that God has given us. And I want us to think about this. Jesus has given each of us, probably each of us, anybody in here? Maybe not everybody, but pretty much everybody. He's given each of us a digital printing press. Right, you think about history, and you think about how Christians have utilized media throughout history. Right, when people were yelling as far as they could yell, they yelled as far as they could yell. When people were writing on papyrus with like homemade ink and a quill pen, they were writing on papyrus. When they invented the printing press, they were printing Bibles, they were printing tracts on the printing press. When the radio was invented, we got on the radio and we started preaching the gospel on the radio, shortwave all around the world, preaching the gospel. When TV was invented, we got on the TV and we started preaching the gospel on TV. The problem with all of those is that they're extremely expensive, right? Expensive. You want to buy a printing press? Whew. You want to print Bibles? Expensive. You want to buy airtime on a radio station? Expensive. You want to buy airtime on TV stations? Expensive. But we did it anyway. We did it anyway. And so we have a digital printing press right here. We've got a digital radio station right here, broadcast, just like broadcast radio, put podcasts out there, get it out there to the entire world, right here. We've got a TV station right here in our pockets. We've got worldwide distribution. Could you imagine? Right, you're writing a book, right? Could you imagine writing that book 20 years ago when you had to go through the gatekeepers, right, to get your book published? Yeah, and a typewriter, right? I mean, typewriter and gatekeepers to make sure that only the people that they wanted to publish books got to publish books. And then, how do you distribute that thing, right? I mean, how do you get it all around the world? How do you get your book to Mongolia? I don't even know. You can get it to Mongolia right here from your house. We've got a missionary tool that reaches the nations right here. And it's a device that's in every one of our pockets or purses. It is an amazing tool that God has given us for His glory and for His benefit, right? So I want to share with you a little bit about that tonight and show you some opportunities that God has given us with this thing. You know, thinking about Paul Paul went where the people were, right? I mean, he didn't just preach in a cave somewhere by himself. He went to where the people were. He went to the synagogues. That was his custom. He'd go to the synagogue first, enter a new city, hit the synagogue. Why? Why would you go to the synagogue, Paul? That's where the people are. I mean, that's where the people who were supposed to be waiting for the Messiah, who were supposed to be educated in God's word, were, and they were all there on Saturday. Let's go teach them. Well, what happens when they rejected it? He went to the Gentiles, right? He'd go to the Gentiles. And so, in one instance, he went up to Mars Hill, right? He goes up to Mars Hill in Athens, and why would you go to Mars Hill? Why would you go up to the top of a hill outside of a city to talk about Jesus? Why would you go up there? Any thoughts? Huh? Your voice could carry? Okay, right? Your voice could carry. I don't think that's the reason he went up there, but that would be true. Okay, so they had their statues, right, going up there. He sees all those statues going up there. Okay, people would see you. That's where the people gathered to exchange ideas, to talk about the things that were important to talk about. He went up there and he met with people and discussed important things with them, right? Of course, they're going to end up rejecting it, but he went to where the people were who discussed that type of stuff. He'd go to the marketplace and talk to people there, right? Like in Philippi. So he would go to wherever the people were and discuss the gospel with them using the technology that they had at the day, which was his mouth, right? And so we have added to that technology today, and we've added to the places where people gather to exchange ideas. So we've got, how many people use social media? 5.17 billion people in the world are on social media. Almost 1.2 billion people. 5.2 billion people. That's 64% of the world's population. That's a lot of people. Over half of the world's population uses social media on a monthly basis. Now, it's low. That seems like a lot, but that's actually low because that's counting total people in the world, not just people with internet access. And so those people with internet access, 90% of the people who have access to the internet use social media. 90%. That's a lot of people. It's been growing, right? It's been growing year after year after year. And currently, at least the last statistics, on average, people spend about 2 hours and 21 minutes a day on social media. It's a lot, right? We would look at that and say, man, that's a big waste of time. Yeah, that's what you, right? We look at it and we see the negative, right? I look at it, I see the negative. But is that could that be a positive? That is 2 hours and 21 minutes where you know people are going to be every day. You know they're going to be there every day for 2 hours and 21 minutes. You don't know which 2 hours and 21 minutes, but there's going to be people there for that amount of time every single day. And it's over half of the world's population. So these are the social media platforms where they are. Facebook's number one. This is in millions, so that's like 2.9 billion people are on Facebook, 2.5 billion on YouTube. WhatsApp, that's not very popular here. And then Instagram at 2 billion people. Those are kind of the three main ones right there. TikTok's, it's growing, but it's at about 1 billion people on TikTok right now. Who uses Facebook ever? At least once a month. Do you use Facebook? Okay. Who uses YouTube at least once a month? Okay. Who uses Instagram at least once a month? Okay. Who uses TikTok at least once a month? One. All right. So, it kind of represented what we saw there, right? The hands going up kind of represented exactly what we saw there. That's where people are every day for over 2 hours a day. They're on these social media platforms. Most of them are on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. In my opinion, YouTube's the best. Not just because that's the one that I use the most, but because I think it offers the best opportunities for us to build relationships with people, right? Because it's not a hamster wheel. These other social media platforms are basically a hamster wheel. You put content out there, it goes out there, and then it disappears. And then you have to put new content out and new content out. Whereas on YouTube, it is basically evergreen. You put it out there, and it lives there forever, and people can always find it. It's always possible for them to find it anyway. It doesn't get buried the same way. So let's look at some of these stats here from YouTube. About 2.5 billion monthly active users on YouTube. This is as of April 2024. By the end of this year, they're projecting it to be over 3 billion people on YouTube. Monthly active users, right? Not just occasional people. These are like people that have accounts on YouTube. 31% of the total global population uses YouTube. 31% of all of the people in the world watch YouTube. It's the second most visited website in the world. Google's number 1, YouTube's number 2, Facebook is number 3, and Instagram is number 4, at least when I got these statistics. It is the second largest search engine in the world. Google's number 1, of course, because we say, just Google it, right? We go to Google and we search for something. YouTube's the second largest search engine, and it's owned by Google, right? And so it's like when YouTube videos come up in your Google searches sometimes, right? You search for something on Google, how to do something, and then you see videos on there, right? That's another opportunity for a video to appear in Google search and also in YouTube search. And so you have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people coming to YouTube every day and searching for something in YouTube, right? This is the autofill search, the search suggestion autofill. When you go to YouTube and you start typing in something that you're looking for, it auto-populates this whole list for you. This is an example here, right? This is should Christians, I just started typing, I typed that in, should Christians, and then it autofills all of these things below it. These are all real things that real people really search for every day. Should Christians play video games? Watch what? Watch Wicked. Yeah, I mean, get tattoos. All of these questions right here are things that people want to know the answers to. Could you answer any of those questions? What do you think? Could you answer any of these? I bet you could answer most of these off the top of your head, and you could answer all of them thoroughly with a little bit of research and study. I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could. You could be the one to answer the questions that people are asking. Could be you. Here's another one. What's the Bible? What does the Bible, that's what I typed in there. This is the autofill. These are things that people want to know. What does the Bible say about marriage? What does the Bible say about fasting? What does the Bible say about hell? What does the Bible say about aliens, about love, about the Antichrist, about divorce, lust, women preaching? I mean, people are going to YouTube and they are asking questions about the Bible, and we're the people with the Bible. They want to know the answers to these questions. I mean, you talk about an opportunity that God has just like laid into our pockets. He just like slipped it right in there, like, whoosh, there you go, buddy. You got it right there in your pocket. What you going to do with it? What you going to do with this talent that I have given you? Unprecedented technology and reach. What you going to do with it there, Marty? I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, Lord. YouTube reaches more 18 to 49-year-olds in the average week than all TV networks combined, cable TV networks combined. All of them combined, Fox News, CNN, all of that. YouTube reaches more people than any of those TV stations, and all of them combined. That's amazing, right? And we have access to it all for free. I mean, you had to buy the phone, but you already bought the phone. I already bought the phone. I already pay for the internet anyway because I got to watch Netflix, right? I mean, like, what more do you need? You already got it. And if you don't have internet access, you still got, right? I mean, you still got the library for free. Brothers Phil Sanders, right? Maybe you've seen In Search of the Lord's Way. Brother Phil Sanders, they do a great work out of Oklahoma, right? They are on 210 TV stations. They are on 150 local cable stations. They are on 50 radio stations. They broadcast to the Pacific Islands, 30,000 islands in the Pacific Rim on shortwave. They reach hundreds of millions of people, potentially. Amazing work, right? And they should be commended for the work that they do here. But it costs them $3.5 million a year to do that. $3.5 million a year to reach all those people. You can reach the same amount of people for free. Basically. For free. But, and here's the but, right? But many Christians only consume, right? We scroll, we watch videos, we share jokes and political posts. We might share pictures of our kids or our dogs or our coffee or our food, our pets, our whatever, our plants maybe. I mean, we share all that stuff, right? But creating biblical content often doesn't happen. And the question is why? Right? Why not? Well, here's 5 reasons why. Christians don't make Bible-based YouTube videos. Fear of backlash, fear of criticism, that's real fear, but that can be overcome. A fear of feeling unqualified or unworthy, like I don't know, I can't teach the Bible, I'm not a good teacher, I don't know the answers to the questions, I don't know what I would say. I can totally help you with that. I can help you with every one of these problems if you desire to share the gospel online. Technology, intimidation. I don't know how to use the tech. I don't know how to set up a YouTube channel. I don't know how to record a video. I don't know how to do all this stuff. I can teach you how to do that. Everything. All of it. Others are already doing it. World Bible School's out there, Apologetics Press, Don Blackwell, all these guys are out there. They're all already doing it, but they're not you. People like you in real life, people will like you online. Some people like me, some people like Jeremy way better than me. Some people like me way better than Jeremy. I mean, that's just the way the world is. And there are millions of people who could potentially like you and want to listen to what you have to say about God and the Bible. No one will watch. Maybe, but probably not. Probably lots of people will watch. We've been doing an experiment. We've been doing an experiment this month. We've been doing an experiment this month in November. You might have seen Julie's videos here on Facebook and YouTube. I just want you to see this here. 966 people saw this video. 1,000 people saw this video. 1,200 people saw this video. 1,000 saw this one, and 1,000 saw this one. That last one there, training kids for worship. How you can have your kids in worship and be enjoyable and all of that. She was able to share that advice with 1,000 people. How many people could she have shared that advice with if she went to a one-by-one and was able to share that with them in the same amount of time? 5? We just don't have the opportunity. And so here's kind of the numbers. She's got, she's reaching 90% females, right? That's the statistics on those videos. And the age group is 25 to 44. That's the largest kind of bracket there. So the target audience, people that are raising kids, they need the advice, they're the ones that are actually getting it. Here's the growth, right? When we started it on November 1st, you can see the views growth right there. And those videos have reached 6,000 individual people. That's not bad. And they're largely new viewers. In other words, 97.6% of the people that have seen these videos, they have not watched any of her other videos. They're not subscribed to her channel. They don't know Julie from anybody. These are new people who saw these videos. Will people watch? I think they will. I think they will if we will utilize the tool that God has given us for His glory and His benefit. And so if you would like to know how you can do that, I would love to sit down with you personally or in a group. We could have a class as a group, special class, how to do that, what to do, how to overcome some of those fears and obstacles and problems that hold us back from doing it, because they are real. I've experienced them. I know how it feels. I was so concerned before I started the Down to Earth Christian. I was so nervous about being judged, right, by brethren as not doing it the right way or not saying it just the right exact way. There is fear. There are negative comments that come in, but we can deal with those things, and there are tools and there are ways to be able to do all of that. So if you would like to learn that, I would love to teach you. Oh, you need the podium.
No,
I'm
I
so
am
sorry.
not.
Well,
But yes,
Tom's
take
going
my-
to need the podium.
I will. Everybody's gonna get a podium someday or another. So we will be singing 613. Hold to God's unchanging hand. Shall we sing? Time is filled with swift transition.
How many noticed this at the front of the room? Wondered what in the world is that going to be used for tonight? Well, you know, I started thinking about sticks, and I've come across a lot of sticks in my life. And I noticed that when you have boys, the first thing they start doing around the place is looking for a perfect stick. I mean, they look high and low for that stick. And I know when I've taken my grandchildren out to my place, they'll come back, 3 or 4 of them will be having a stick and they'll swing it around like this. And when you have a fire going, let me use it for the fire. all that kind of stuff. And they're always looking for that perfect stick. Well, this is my stick that I have, and it was given to me when I retired from the Forest Service, when I was involved with that. And I basically enjoyed my tour with them, but the guy said, you know what? We want you to have a perfect stick so you can walk your walk when you leave the Forest Service. They knew what kind of a person I was, and they says, here, we want to have it. In fact, they gave me 2, one for Diana and for me, so that we could walk trails together and use it. It's kind of funny, as you get closer to 70, it's becoming more and more important to have a walking stick. At first I thought it was, oh, that's kind of corny. But in reality, it's really good to have a stick here. And that's what my lesson's going to be about, is a stick. You know, but on the negative side, there's a lot of people out there that, like boys, when they get their stick, somebody will want to break their stick. I don't know about your experience in that, but I know when Brenton finds a stick, it's just tempting for one of the brothers to go and break their stick. He can break the stick. And it's kind of like, oh no, my stick's broken. It just breaks their heart. And it's just really hard to console them when they get a stick broken. But you know, it's not only that physical stick that you have as people. There's some spiritual and unphysical things that we each carry around in a stick that sometimes gets broken, and it just crushes us. There's people that mean good to you, but they break the stick unintentionally. And it could be something like, here's an example. I'm applying for a job, and I don't get the job. And someone says, you're just not qualified, Tom, for that job. And it does hurt when you apply for a job and don't get that job. Or when you're trying out for a baseball team and someone says, oh man, I'm really want to get on the team to play baseball. And you realize, oh, I didn't make the team. And someone says, I knew you couldn't do that. And your stick gets broke. And it just hurts your feelings down inside. Or maybe you're pulling for a choir practice or going for the chess team or whatever it might be. Someone gets hurt. But the one that really hurts you the most is when you do something and you don't get the credit for it. I don't know where you've been in that part in my life. I've had that time many times working for the government and did work for my bosses and whatnot. And it went all the way up to Washington office. And then they got all the credit and I didn't get none. And I was going to put in a year and a half on a study for equipment used for the Forest Service, in which whether there's more benefit to do by contract or by what we call the force account within house. And so that team did all that work. I was ahead of it. And Diana knows I went on many trips across the nation to do that. Didn't get credit for it. And it was like breaking my stick. And I was just madder. But then I says, you know what? It's just a stick. And I realized that what really counts is that God's with me every time when my stick is there. God is always there to inspire me. And it helps me realize it doesn't matter that much. God is in control, and God has taken on the role of keeping my stick in really context of what it really needs to be. It's just a stick. And it's just, sometimes it's our ego, it's our feelings, it's things like that that hurts. There's no doubt about it. But let me read a couple of things that God says about this. He says, we know that all things God works for good of those who love him. If God is for us, who can be against us? In Romans 8:28 and 31. God has been in control. So even you didn't get that job, or you didn't make the baseball team, or you didn't get credit for your work that you did on a special detail for the government, you know what? God's in control. God's taking care of you. He's making sure that you're doing the right thing. Here's another one. I can do all things that what? Strengthens me, right? In Philippians, that God is taking in control, and I am faithful even to death. He tells us, he says, I'm faithful. I will be with you and be faithful to death with you, and I will give you a crown of life. In Revelations 2:10. All these things are promises to God. And if you don't believe God's promises, I guess then the stick breaking really hurts. But if your stick breaking happens to you, you got to realize that God is in control. And that God is doing the best that he thinks was good for you. And so I've learned anytime that I've been hurt that way, just to say, I guess it's just God's will. And I'll have to just, as they say, suck it up a little bit and say, I'm going to do better. And I know what I did, what I could do, but if God's in control, I'll just follow what God wants me to do. So I wonder, in looking back to us in the auditorium tonight, if we all had the attitude of basically, I want you or I to do the best at loving one another, caring for one another, just like God cares for us. And most of all, forgiving one another. Because I know I break someone's stick and it hurts them, and I ask you to forgive me for the stick that I probably broke for you at some time. It's invariable. We all do things that hurt people, and so we have to ask for forgiveness. And I ask for that forgiveness in you if I've ever done that. But I hope we can always look back and say, God's in control. God knows what's best for us. God strengthens us through those disappointments and those stick-breaking times that we have in our life. And please don't break another one's stick without really looking at what you're doing to that person. You may think that you're doing well for them, but it could be breaking someone's stick. But then realize, you know what? They will get through it because God's with them, and hopefully they will realize that God is making their way straight and good. So I want you to think of that. I also want to thank, we have a guest speaker tonight in the back, Tanner Smith, the one we had sponsored through school, and he's with us tonight with his wife, Allie, and we're so glad to have them tonight. And thank you for being here as part of the group in that regard. Now at this time, we'll have our song that Brenton's picked out.
We're singing 537. Here we are but straying pilgrims. Are we all ready? Here we are but straying pilgrims, here our path is often dim, but to cheer us on our journey still, we sing this wayside hymn. Yonder over the rolling river where the shining mansions rise, soon will be our home forever, and the smile of the blessed giver gladdens all our longing eyes. Here our souls are often fearful of the pilgrim's lurking foe, but the Lord is our defender, and he tells us we may know. Yonder over the rolling river where the shining mansions rise, soon will be our home forever, and the smile of the blessed giver gladdens all our longing eyes. Nobody else is getting up, so. All right, you took my first announcement. That's okay. It's good to have you, Tanner and Allie, visiting. So we supported them for 2 years while he was out at Browns Trail School of Preaching. So, all right. So I do have a couple announcements before I ask for more announcements. I'll put these ones out there first. J. Mack and Lorinda will be traveling, so they wanted to ask for prayers as they're leaving on Saturday to go towards Utah. And then Jesse and Nadia are traveling home. They should have made it to Butte this evening, I believe, and they should be here tomorrow, so keep them in your prayers. And then Scott and his health, so if you'll keep him in your prayers as well. Any other prayer requests and or announcements, I guess?
They're moving, Friday.
Oh, they are moving? Okay. That's good. Are they needing help?
Yeah. I didn't ask her. I asked where she was tonight. She said, we're packing because we're moving Friday.
Okay.
So I think, as far as I know, Jesse and I are gonna go over and help them unload the truck on Friday. And Justin, and I forget who the other person is gonna help them, Justin's dad, is gonna help them load it in Bonner's, and then Jesse and I are gonna help unload it here.
Any other announcements or prayer requests? All right. If not, if you'll pray with me, please. Dear Lord, our most gracious and wonderful Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to be here tonight to
enjoy a lesson and to know that you've provided so many things for us, especially in this day and age. And as we learned that the power of the phone and what we can do with it compared to back 2,000 years ago, and that we can reach so many people, and that we can remember that we can be those shining lights not only just in our communities, but also in other places as well, that we can help spread your word and to share the good news of your Son and what he's done for us. May we always be mindful of that. We also thank you so much for allowing us to have the freedoms we have in this nation, to be able to worship you and to be able to have that freedom of speech as well. And those are such important roles in this day and age to be able to do that. We also want to send up prayers for those who are traveling, with J. Mac and Lorinda traveling to Utah on Saturday, and with Jesse and Nadia traveling back here tomorrow, and that they'll have a safe trip back. And we also thank you for blessing us with all of our brethren, and that you will be with Scott as he is not doing so well, and that you will be with him in his health, and that you will give him strength, and that you will help him in all that he's going through, and that you will be with them as they are moving this Friday, that they will be able to have a safe move, and as they are excited to get into a new house. And we thank you for allowing us to enjoy these wonderful things that you've given us, and that we can use them throughout the rest of this week, and as we depart from here, that we'll have a safe trip to our own homes, and that you will also be with Bill and Willie as they travel back to Texas as well, and that they will have a safe trip back there. And we know that there's possibly others who will be traveling, and others that aren't here tonight, that you'll be with them, and that you'll be with us in all that we do. And all this we ask in Christ's name. Amen.